Welcome, lads. It's time once again to talk about the greatest faction in all of Warhammer. The big green goofs themselves, the orcs. My favorite bit of the orcs is the technology. The wild junkyard vehicles, guns that don't make sense, and big stompy robots. The spirit of the mech boy is truly an amazing thing. So let's dive into the mind of these weirdos and one of my favorite units with a bit of lore from the new 10th edition codex. Mechs, mech boys, mechaniacs, spanners. The orcs have many names for their ever-inventing engineering cast. They are the source of every orky contraption, vehicle, and weapon more complex than a plank with a nail bashed through it. Yet for all their instinctive knowledge of how to bodge together every sort of madcap machinery, mechs are no less anarchic than the rest of their species. Their workshops are death traps, surrounded by heaps of junk that might come in handy and stuffed to overflowing with oversized tools, half-built weaponry, chain-dangled engine blocks, and discarded, often live, ordnance. Grot assistants, known as oilers, pick their way through the tangle, doing their best to assist their master while avoiding a sudden and explosive demise. Mechs don't tend to work from plans or blueprints, instead simply bolting together whatever feels right. As such, no two of their inventions are ever exactly the same, especially as mechs are driven to constantly tinker and experiment with new ideas. They will gladly do custom jobs for other orcs in return for payment in teeth or looted scrap. However, customers tend to be prepared to receive something rather different to what they ordered. Sluggers that fire glowy explosive shells, power claws that also shoot flame, armor that teleports its wearer at random. All these and countless other mad inventions may emerge from a mech's workshop. These technology obsessives are easily distracted by new ideas, and their scrap-strewn layers are usually thick with half-completed odds and ends. A mech may well start out making a simple slugger for another orc when inspiration can strike. In a surge of reckless, experimental, and totally unasked for activity, the mech will scavenge, cannibalize, and outright steal whatever his fevered imagination demands. Adding extra barrels, additional magazines, super scopes, and power gizmos, with any notion of the original commission long forgotten. The mech may add an engine and track units, connect the slugger's former barrels up as a part of a steam-powered force field generator, and add a custom bomb lava for a decoration. The bewildered customer will usually be overjoyed, without having the first clue as to what it is they purchased, while the mech has already moved on to a dozen other projects, itching to cobble together some new and insane wonder. The array of technologies mechs spontaneously invent is truly incredible. From unstable energy weapons, matter-dragging tractor beams, and orc portable rocket packs to teleportation tech, warp tunnel projectors, electromagnetic beamers, and Mork alone knows what else. Mechs can make it all. Yet the great tragedy of their kind, not that the orcs see it this way, is that for all their wondrous abilities, the mechs only have the imagination to employ their technologies as weapons of war. They have the potential to make their species one of the most advanced in the galaxy, yet they simply render it one of the most dangerous, both to themselves and everyone else. Several of the strangest forms of technology mastered by the orc mechs are frequently seen powering batteries of big gun artillery. Tractor cannons use powerful beams of energy to latch onto targets, dragging them, or bits of them, violently towards the weapon. Aircraft are especially susceptible, terminally stalling and falling from the sky. The Smash-A-Gun uses Lift-A-Drop-A technology, its crew trapping their targets, preferably something big and heavy, in a localized force field before lifting them high up into the air. Depending on the mech who made it, some Smash-A-Guns can crush the luckless foe, as if with a giant invisible fist, while others are simply switched off, leaving the target to plummet into the ground, often having been maneuvered over more enemies. Such results raise raucous laughter from the nearby orcs, and wagers are made on the relative bounce and burst expected from the enemy tank or a boulder dropped on doomed infantry. For many mechs, the simple logic of making a gun better by attaching it to one or more other guns is unassailable. From such thinking has emerged the ostentatious snaz guns carried by the Flash Gits, the hefty weapon rigs known as def guns, as well as customized combi weapons of every conceivable form. Mechs will tinker with their creations even in the midst of battle, and few orcs, usually not even the mech, can anticipate the results. Mobs of orc boys welcome the presence of powerful big mechs into a fight, not only for the unpredictable improvements they apply to the orcs' guns, but also for the weird gadgets and gizmos that they bring with them. Amongst the most bizarre of these is the Shock Boosta. When it actually works properly, the Shock Boosta bored brief warp tunnels through the skin of reality. By piling through these after the big mech, mobs of orcs swiftly negotiate dense terrain and even solid fortress walls in order to fall upon, and sometimes all too literally, their shocked enemies with choppas raised high. Mechs and painboys often collaborate, much to the misfortune of everything in arm's reach. When orcs' limbs, organs, or occasionally heads get lost in battle and require bionic replacement, it is the mech who fashions the cyborg components and the painboy who fits them. Only amidst the beast naga tribes is this rule broken, as their own pain bosses manage to fulfill something of both roles. That said, pain bosses also prefer to work on squigs rather than orcs, and frankly, most of their beast naga patients would prefer it that way too. When mech boys and pain boys really get working on collaborative efforts, a dread mob is often the result. Mech boys fashion combat walkers known as killicans and def dreads. Then the pain boys work with them to wire volunteers into the war engines. Grots into killicans, and orcs into def dreads, hopefully installing the crew the right way up. This is a one-way trip involving a great deal of amputation and crude bionics. That doesn't stop orcs and Gretchen queuing up for the process. After all, it appears a shortcut to being the biggest and the baddest. By the time the new pilots grasp how horribly restrictive it is being wired into an engine-driven armored dustbin, it's a bit too late. That said, with a bossy enough big mech or two to herd them into battle, these dread mobs are clanking, fume-spewing nightmares for the enemy. Their guns, snapping claws, and roaring saws have broken more than a few battle lines. In-game, these models are represented wonderfully. Mechs have the ability to heal a vehicle model within 3 inches by D3 wounds, and give that model +1 to hit on all of its attacks, which is a wonderful little boon to help orc shooting, or get the big guys hitting on a 2+, which can be wild. The mechs can also hide behind nearby vehicles and gain an ability called Lone Operative, which makes them unable to be targeted by attacks outside of 12 inches. For our beautiful baby def dreads, they have the unique ability of having 4 arm slots. Now with these arms, you could kit your dread out with any combination you'd like. The options are claws, rockets, scorches, custom mega blastas, and big shootas. Fun fact, if you choose more than one claw, you get extra attacks too because of the dead choppy ability here. You can see here I went with a bit of a shooty version. I play him with 4 custom mega blastas. The beauty of this gun is that each has 3 shots, so 12 in total, hitting on 5s normally, but 4 with the buff from the mech, strength 9 for punching through tough stuff, -2 to an armor save, and d6 damage for each shot. This thing has the potential to go absolutely buck wild. The trade-off is that these guns are hazardous, and after taking your shots, you roll a dice for each gun that you used. For every 1 that you get, your vehicle takes 3 damage. On top of this, you could also buff these little freaks with the Dread Mob detachment that lets you push the button. Before attacking, this lets you roll a dice. A 1 to 2 gives your attack rolls sustained hits, which lets hit rolls of 6 give you an extra attack. 3 to 4 gives you lethal hits, where 6s will automatically wound. And 5 or 6 gives wound rolls of 6 an additional -2 AP. Here's where it gets wacky. You can also choose to not push the button, but choose which buff you want from the button, but it gives your weapons the hazardous keyword. If you remember, our custom Mega Blasters already have hazardous, so in this detachment, having 2 instances of hazardous will make your Death Dread take those 3 wounds on 1s and 2s for your hazardous roll. The Wombo combo can go even further, my friends. The Daka 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 stratagem only costs 1 command point to reroll 1s to hit. You can also push it to give your guns full rerolls to hit. Normally this would give your weapons hazardous, but we already maxed out that debuff by choosing sustained hits on the button. My friends, I can't do math, but I can tell you that this combo goes hard. Does my Death Dread get to take 1 shot, absolutely obliterate something, then blow itself up? Yes, absolutely. Every time, and I love him, 10 out of 10 orc model, would wah again. These models have a great translation from lore to tabletop, and the models are super fun to build. Anyway, let's get to the spinny shots. As you can see, I finished the base with my usual goblin green, and added an extra set of rockets on top. Thanks for hanging out for some good orky times. I'm starting to have a collection of orc videos by now, so if you like this one, be sure to check out another. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe, and also come hang out with me on Twitch at twitch.tv/drinkyourpaintwaterlive, where I stream 4 nights a week. The link for all that will be in the description. I'll see you guys in the next one.